I am State Senator Nikema Williams, the first-term state senator. Not quite a year under my belt just yet. I was elected in a special election last December 5th. I represent Senate District 39, which runs from the Buckhead area of Atlanta down through the heart of Atlanta, covering also East Point, College Park, Union City, and South Fulton. So when I woke up yesterday morning, that was not a part of my to-do list to get arrested. I woke up like I do every morning arguing with my 3-year-old son Carter about what he could or could not wear to school. And yesterday it was dinosaur rain boots. So we went through this whole saga, and I came to the Capitol for a special session to discuss hurricane funding for the victims of Hurricane Michael down in Southwest Georgia. And people are still hurting, and so that's how I thought my day was going to go. And I got here, and the Senate convened and adjourned, and I was waiting for the House to come into session, and I saw all of the Capitol Police presence, and they started to gather, and I peeked over the rail and to find out what was going on, and they told me that there was a protest. And they already had the plastic ties to arrest people. They were like, I've never seen the presence like this before at the Capitol, and they were everywhere. And I went back and I sat on the bench where I typically sit when the Senate is not in session, and continued to talk with my friends until I heard a lot of commotion downstairs on the second floor. I heard the commotion, I heard a glass break, and that's when I got up. I left my purse and everything, so this was not a part of my plan. I got up and I went downstairs to find out what was going on, because earlier when looking over the rail, a couple of people waved at me because they were constituents or people that I know. And so I went downstairs, and first I just observed to figure out what was going on. And as soon as I got there, someone was like, they threw this guy to the floor. They threw this young person to the ground, and he wasn't doing anything. And so I was trying to understand what was actually happening. And one of the officers was talking to another lady that was protesting, and he said, step over here and I'll explain to you I'll explain the rules to you. I'll explain the law. He started citing code section. Everyday citizens don't know code sections. And then she told him she didn't feel comfortable walking away to the side with him alone. And he said, well, is anyone willing to listen to me? And I immediately said, I want to hear what you have to say, because I wanted to know, like, where is the line drawn? What in his mind would deem this make it not a peaceful protest, because he had said that they could gather as long as they were peaceful. And I didn't deem singing chants non-peaceful. We had a press conference earlier with many Senate colleagues, and we were much louder than any of the protesters ever were during our press conference, and we didn't get arrested. None of the members got arrested at that 11:30 press conference. But at this 1:30 rally is when people started to get arrested. So because I think the Capitol Police didn't like the tone that one of the protesters took with him, he said, I'm going to get the targets out of here. And she immediately questioned, what do you mean targets? And so then he said, I could make an announcement right now to disperse and arrest everybody. So that was the intent. Like, it was not the intent to de-escalate. It was not the intent to allow people to peacefully protest. They came with the intent to arrest, or they wouldn't have had all of those makeshift handcuffs connected to their belt loops. The protest was about, people are upset because Georgians turned out in historic numbers on Tuesday, November 6th, to make sure that their voices were heard in this election. And we have a razor-thin margin in the gubernatorial race. We have a congressional district that is less than 1,000 votes deciding it. And there are still provisional ballots. There are still many ballots that have not been counted. And people came down yesterday to say that every vote must be counted. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I came and I stood with them, and when the announcement was made to disperse, they immediately started arresting people. And I was one of those people. I was standing with one of my constituents, standing in the middle of the Capitol Rotunda. And when I hear an announcement to disperse, and I actually don't even know what exact language they used, but something was yelled from a floor above us. And I'm not thinking that that applies to me, because I am a state senator, a sitting state senator in the Capitol building on a day of special session, standing with constituents. I don't know what more being here doing my job, how you can describe it. My job as a state senator is not just to vote the machine when a vote comes up. I am here to represent the voices of my constituents. And while I regret that the Capitol Police unlawfully arrested me yesterday, I don't regret standing with my constituents to make sure that their voices are heard. For far too long, people have felt like their voices have been unheard and they've been unseen in our political process. That's why so many people don't get involved. That's like when votes aren't counted, that discourages people from getting involved. So I am always going to stand on the side of lifting up people's voice who feel like they need someone to advocate on their behalf. That's who I am. That's at the everything that I believe in. I show up at the polls every time the elections are open. I convince everyone that I know that you should go and vote. And it would not be Nikema if I did not stand with my constituents, encouraging them to lift their voice and demand that every vote be counted. And that's just what I did yesterday. And I was arrested for standing with my constituents. Never in a million years would I have imagined in 2018 having reached I am a state senator. I'm elected to a body, one of 56 in the entire state. And I felt targeted yesterday and felt unsafe walking into the Capitol this morning. I had to walk past police that just put me in handcuffs and hauled me off to jail yesterday. Yeah. And I'm supposed to walk into this Capitol and feel like they are here for my protection. I don't feel safe. I don't feel like they're here to protect me. They're here to protect the people that they want to protect, and it is clearly not someone that looks like me. I have a constant reminder that I am operating in a system that was not designed for someone like me. A woman, for one, a woman of color in the Deep South, this system was never designed for me to serve in this body. So standing there yesterday, I was not the only member of the legislature. Yeah. My colleague in the House, David Dreyer, who happens to be a white man, yeah, was standing right there when this happened. I have another colleague from a social justice organization, a white blonde woman, who was standing right there. Neither one of them were arrested. Mm-hmm. But yet me and my constituent, another black woman, we were both arrested immediately. And they were both standing, the other two people were standing right there. And Representative Dreyer made a statement to the press last night about standing right there. And he said the only difference between the two of us is that Nikema is a black woman. But we were both elected members of this body, and we were both there to make sure that people were safe and okay, and to make sure that the situation did not escalate. But one of us was arrested and one of us was not. Yesterday, the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus had a press conference, and they had maps of Gwinnett County and DeKalb County, and it was very clear where people were issued more provisional ballots than other places. It was very clear of the communities where most of the absentee ballots were rejected, and these were communities that had a high number of people of color. Some of them black people, some of them Hispanic, but people of color where these incidents were much, much higher. My own neighborhood of Booker T. Washington High School, I live around the corner from there. On election day, this neighborhood in a predominantly black community, they ran out of provisional ballots and were telling people that it wouldn't be fair. My own niece, who's a sophomore at Spelman College, went to vote, and when they told her they couldn't find her name on the rolls and she requested a provisional ballot, they told her that they only had 2 left and it wouldn't be fair to give her one and not have one for the other people that might come behind her. She knew to press and to push the issue and had them to look again, and they eventually found her name on the rolls and she cast a regular ballot, but they literally told her that it wouldn't be fair to give her a provisional ballot. It might not be fair, but it's the law. Whatever they think in their mind is fair has little to do with what they are required to do in passing out provisional ballots for people that have issues on election day. Yeah. And so there have been a series of events, not just the provisional ballots, but 53,000 people whose voter registration was upheld just at the conclusion of the voter registration deadline. Yeah. 70% of those people are black, yeah, out of the 53,000. And it's unheard of that in 2018 we're still dealing with this. And this isn't isolated. We're finding these cases at precincts across the state, and that is why the constituents that came down to the Capitol yesterday were adamant about having their voices heard, that every vote must be counted. If Brian Kemp is the eventual governor-elect, then so be it. But let it be after every vote is counted. And right now, that has not happened, and we should not be coronating anyone as governor until we have counted all of the votes. On Friday, we had counties that had already certified their elections. Military and overseas ballots were not due back in until Friday evening. And so you're telling all of these people that serve our country, that are registered to vote in Georgia, that we're going to let you send it in, but it really doesn't matter who you voted for or what your vote was, because we're going to certify the election before your votes even come back. I tell people all the time that I'm my ancestors' wildest dreams, but I'm also the white supremacist's worst nightmare, because I am not going away, and I am going to always stand up, stand strong on who I am and my belief system. There was an ounce in me this morning. My husband asked me like if I was okay with coming into the Capitol today, and I stopped and I thought about it, and I wanted to curl up on a rainy day and stay in bed and just retreat from everything, because yesterday was horrific. But that's not who I am, and that's not why I'm here, and that's not why my constituents elected me. And so if I would have stayed home, then white supremacists would have won the day. If I would have stayed home, then democracy would have lost. And I needed to be here to make sure that my voice was heard, and the constituents that I serve, that I'm uplifting their voices. So because it was never my intent to get arrested the first time, and it was it was a horrific experience.
Yeah.
When I got to the Fulton County Jail, first of all, we waited in a van for hours. One of the people on the van with me had to use the bathroom, and someone literally helped him pee in a jug on the van seat sitting next to me. When I got inside, I have never done this before and didn't plan to do this yesterday, but if you apparently wear high heels, you have to take your shoes off. So they brought me these little plastic shoes to put on, and then everyone else had been patted down, and they patted me down like worse than what you would get at a TSA pre-check. But then she told me to lift up my dress so that they could make sure that I was not carrying something in my vaginal cavity. I am a sitting state senator that you brought off the rotunda of the Capitol, and you're searching me and wanted me to take my dress off to strip search me. And then they wanted me to pee in a cup so that they could test my urine before they even told me what I was charged with. And I told them I was not okay with that, and I did not do it. But there were other people there with me yesterday who didn't understand that they could say no, and so they peed in the cup, and they let them pat them down in very invasive ways before even knowing what we were charged with yesterday. So I don't know that I would just say that I would voluntarily do this, but I do know that I'm always going to stand with my constituents, and I'm always going to stand up for what is fair and just. And if that means me standing with them to make sure that their voices are heard, then I don't know what that might bring.